Welcome to Too Many Podcasts. This week's theme of amazing women, incredible stories, winds down with an interview with director Stacey Toy. If you've missed any of this week's episodes, just subscribe to the show on any podcast app or listen at Sherpalution.com. They will be there waiting, just like we are, for a raise. From the Sherpa.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa screening room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It's me, Jim, the podcast Sherpa. You knew that. You've been hearing me for the last 4 days on this Amazing Women Incredible Stories week, right? What do you mean you haven't? Well, there are 4 other episodes, if you're listening in real time, to go along with this theme, and today's the 5th day. Well, if you're keeping count. My guest today is a lady named Stacey Toy, and she's got a really interesting story of how she went to a prestigious school, had problems with drug addiction, overcame her demons, and then became a successful director and producer. If you're with young kids and you don't want to hear the story of drug addiction, maybe you can fast forward it a little bit, or you can just listen to the show with headphones on. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But I'm sure you will enjoy the story. I really like talking to Stacey. She's a super nice person, really down to earth, and we had a lot of fun. And before we even started our interview, we had a surprise visitor knocking on the door of the conference room at the Sherpa Chalet. It really, really happened. I'm not kidding. So take a listen to my conversation with Stacey Toy. Hey everybody, we are here in the conference room at the Sherpa Chalet. I'm here with a producer, and she is the COO of 25/8 Studios, because 24/7 ain't enough time.
Boy, you remembered. I love it.
Her name is Stacey Toy. She's got a really interesting story, and we've been having fun here. Before we even started the interview, a rock star actually tried to crash our Zoom room, right?
It was amazing. This is like the first time ever. And then it was like, oh, it's this person. And I'm like, that's my best friend. If anybody's going to crash it, the one rock star who I love and adore and is a very good friend of mine and I respect, Jesse Snyder. So that's awesome. That was the coolest thing because you had to kick him off for me. So like that'll never happen again.
I just hope he doesn't seek revenge on you or anything like that.
No, it was the wrong day. So it's his fault, but let me have my moment. This doesn't happen.
That's right. He was actually very gracious about it. We both texted him and said, get out of here.
I know. He's like, sorry. It's okay. Like it happens, like it never happened. So this is a first. I feel great already. Thank you, Jim.
We are off and running. Stacey has been 11 years in the broadcasting field. She was a live TV director of America's highest rated local news. Yeah. She worked in the 2012 Olympics in London, and she actually has a master's in journalism from Oxford University. And she was honored by the House of Lords. Stacey Toy, we'd like to give you this award.
This is the best introduction ever. I didn't know people with New York accents could do English accents because,
well, quite. Only the strange ones, my dear.
I love it.
And her studios have won 13 American Advertising Awards, and they produce and cast film, TV, commercials, and documentaries. And we're going to be talking about all that stuff. But I know getting to this point, there was a pretty lengthy road for you, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm 36. I'll be 37 at the end of this. Well, yeah, I'll be 37 by the end of the year. And so I was going to school at Oxford, but before all that, I grew up on a farm and we weren't poor, but we weren't exactly middle class. So, it was I grew up baling hay and taking care of the animals and in the Pocono Mountains. And, it was like my parents, they really encouraged me a lot. And they said, they worked hard, and my dad got hurt and my mom worked in the factory. RCA was at the time, which was ironic considering the field I went into. And they told me, nobody's going to come and knock on your door here in the rural part of Pennsylvania, Northeast PA. So you got to go out and you got to find different ways on how to get what you want. So, as a kid and going through school, I joined clubs. I became, state officers for like Future Business Leaders of America, where they had to pay for me to go and travel to the conventions and get, etiquette classes and speaking classes and all of that stuff. So I literally was just finding all these different ways and routes to be able to do all the things that everybody else could do. And so when I went to college, I graduated in 2001. I had some issues with like health, like ovarian cysts and stuff like that. So, back then the opioid crisis wasn't a thing yet. So, getting a huge prescription of Vicodin and Lorcet and Percocet and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it wasn't a hard thing to do, especially since Oxycontin swore when it came out. It wasn't, addictive, and it was all these things. I was already starting to kind of abuse them just because I have a tolerance for them. But I didn't, I wasn't doing it a lot because I still had to focus on school and I was, getting scholarships and whatnot. But 2 weeks into my freshman year of college was September 11th. I'd never been away from home, and the brochure never told me it was conveniently located 6 miles from 3 Mile Island, and that I could see the 3 Mile Island towers from my dorm. And so it's like I still have that potassium iodide pill in my scrapbook somewhere that they gave us. It was like the scariest time ever. My love of journalism clearly had to come out. So I was like, yeah, this is a definite, I'm going to go into this field because I'm crazy. But I also was scared. I was getting depressed and anxiety, but I'd never experienced that before. So I was using painkillers to, make myself not feel, essentially. And that's normal people. Seems like, 50 of them a day puts me in Oxford. So, it's cool. But I ended up going to the best school in the world on drugs. But I'm sorry, I could have probably found the cure for cancer, but instead, I made stupid decisions. So here I'm on the show instead of at the new Nobel Peace Prize award thing. So, anyways, yes. Well, I've just decided that it's just not my calling. So, I'm just going to let the next person go. Now, I ran out of pills for the first time while I was living overseas because I went, on scholarship and all of that. So, yeah, I ended up spending my finals week without medication. And I ended up, it's not a great feeling, but it's different because you don't know what withdrawal is. And then you try to go to class and you have to go to the bathroom and you end up doing two things at once, in the bathroom. And then because of Oxford being so old, the walls are paper thin, and 7 people decided to stand up and clap for me when I got back to my classroom. So I was like, it was the worst moment of my life and I didn't know what to do, but I asked for help. But like the opioid crisis didn't happen yet. So I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't underage drinking. I wasn't, it wasn't heroin. It wasn't weed. It was my own prescription, and it wasn't a policy thing yet. So I'm like, of course I'm good. I'll be the first, It's like, so it was a long, tumultuous road, especially, because my family didn't have money. So it's not like you can just hire an attorney and fight for all that stuff. So there was, it was just a lot of it's a huge process. So anyways, the last time I took all of that stuff, I got clean on October 27th, 2003. Life started back up and I had to rebuild it because literally I built everything up and then it was taken from underneath my feet and everybody hated me because, drug addict, you're a failure, you're never going to succeed. And so I was at rock bottom. That's where I was. It's fun because looking back, all the people who like to point the fingers and tell you about, your failure and stuff at rock bottom, they've never been there. And it's funny because I've been at the bottom, and then when, I've been at the top, and it seems that all the people at the top at least dip their toe in rock bottom at some point. And the people in the middle pointing fingers, they're just the ones, like, if I had listened to them, I'd be exactly where they still are. But rock bottom's a make or break place. And, my father was extremely encouraging, and he was the only person who really helped me, because everyone else, I don't blame them. It's judging, and I don't blame them. I probably would have done the same thing. But it's like, I couldn't die even. I was keeping journals, and I'm like, I'm hell in Nike sneakers. Not even God wants me. And it's like one of those moments. It was, thank God, for the unanswered prayers type stuff. But anyway, so I get my life back on track. I ended up having children early, and I got married to my husband, who I had known since 5 years old. He grew up down the road from me. We never dated in school, but we graduated together. He went away to the Navy. I, was at school, and we just reconnected and got married. We got married on 7/7/7, and he ended up passing away on 11/11/11 on Veterans Day as a veteran. And we were both 28 years old, and my kids were 6 and 4 at the time. He had been dealing with PTSD and depression and all that stuff from getting out of the military, because he was a jet mechanic on the aircraft carriers, and he had gone with the Blue Angels. And when he decided to stop, and make sure that he was home with his family, he couldn't find a job that made him as happy as the military did. And it's a very hard thing, because they don't, they go from making everything and getting everything and being happy, and they try to do the right thing, and it is what it is. So it wasn't like a thing that my husband did often. This was actually either the first or second time that he had done it, because he didn't even inject himself. And so I found out who did. And then I reached out to him, because he was doing a short prison stint for something else. And I said, when you get out, I want to talk to you. So he messaged me back, and I picked him up at the halfway house, and I took him to lunch, and I said, I know what this feels like. And if you become the father to your 2 sons and the husband to your wife that mine husband can no longer be, I'll help you. And he just looked at me, and he was like, you're the one person who's supposed to hate me, and you're the only person willing to help me. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's because, I've been there, man. Like, people kicked me when I was down, and, nobody helped me, and, all that stuff. So of course I'm going to help you, because, I promised myself, if I freaking live through this and I get out of here, I'm going to do so much, I'm going to change the way that it is, and blah, blah, blah. Everybody says that you do what you got to do. So at the end of the day, I just talked to him yesterday. He's been clean now for 9 years. He was shooting about 50 plus bags a day of heroin, been in and out of jail. And him and my husband and 2 other people used to hang out growing up. And right now he's the only one left. Every other one of them died of a heroin overdose. So I've proven that, love and forgiveness is more powerful than drugs. And it sustained itself. I haven't even seen him probably in 2 years now, the person who injected my husband, but, he thanks me every year. He's so grateful. And the more we got to know each other, he had a rough childhood, his father's in the Hells Angels and stuff. Just having one person on your side, it made the difference. So yeah, I love being, I always root for the underdog, because I used to be it. I'm not afraid to fail. I guess when your first, middle, and last name is like no, no, and no for a long time, it doesn't, so, it's been a long road, but it's, and it seems like, and it was a blink of an eye, and it'll be 17 years ago. But of course, in that moment when your eyelashes hurt, it feels like, 1 minute feels like 6 years. So yeah, we're here, we're alive. And, now I'm just into the movie business too, and broadcasting. It seems like death and destruction was just like what I went towards now that I'm looking at it.
When you said you were at probably your lowest of lows, was there a specific moment in your life where you just said, okay, enough, let's turn the ship around? And
yeah. The moment you realize that something the size of a pencil tip eraser is controlling your life, and you're sitting at the number 1 school in the world, and you've just busted your ass to get there, because it's not like, oh, my parents paid for it. I literally just like, was working all the time and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have everything and nothing. Like, and I can't, and I was afraid because I was on top of the world. Well, at least everyone thought I was on the outside. Like on the inside, I just had to keep up this thing, but I didn't care because I just take more pills. They gave me energy and it's insane. But yeah, I just remember sitting there being like, uh-oh, like, and what am I going to do now? Because everyone like expects me to succeed and to do this. Like, I'm not your typical addict at all. I mean, granted, I liked, partying and stuff. So I never really drank that much because I liked my pills, but, cocaine and all that stuff. It was, I mean, I definitely had my fair share of it. It was a fun time and I'm glad it's over because I definitely think I'd die if I would do half of the stuff that I used to. But yeah.
Now, from that point, you got sober and obviously you managed to stay sober from that point. What propelled you to kind of move into the next phase? You had that interest in journalism, but then the next thing you know, you were a director and then a producer. How did all of that happen?
Well, that's why I love, like, people ask me what's my future and all that. I stopped having 5-year, 10-year, whatever plans, because I did have a goal. I wanted to be a reporter. I did go to school to be a reporter. I was on the TV and all that at college. And I did an internship at the news station that I worked for in Scranton, WNEP. It was like my dream because I grew up watching it. And, it's America's highest rated local newscast in the country. I went and I interned and I realized that, sitting in a courtroom for 8 hours and doing all this stuff and then having 2 minutes on the air, like that was like, it was cool, but it just wasn't enough for me. So I, of course, went towards the control room where you get paid less and you have to work more. But I just loved it. I love the adrenaline. And I just worked, my way up from camera and everything. And I wanted to work there so bad. I actually had my second son on a Tuesday and I got out of the hospital Thursday and started training on Friday morning because I didn't tell them I was pregnant because I wanted to work there so bad. And I didn't want them to like overlook or think, I need this time. I mean, it was part-time and it was just, from like 3:30 in the morning until like 9 a.m. But I wanted it bad, like so bad. So don't worry, I didn't neglect my children, anybody, I was only gone like Friday, Saturday, Sunday mornings like that, but when I started directing, just small and it was so exciting and fun. And I just like to learn. So when I did, and the automation system started coming through, I learned at the Olympics in London. And in 2014, it, came to the United States and I helped the director of engineering of Tribune at the time who invented the automation system we were using. And we helped to perfect over 50 some stations across the US. And I'm like, I built my replacement and perfected it. So control rooms were going from 12 people down to 2. Like, well, I guess I better figure out what's next because if not, they're going to get rid of me soon enough. And, I just got to see the writing on the wall. I mean, it's dumb enough to think, oh, I'm good and they won't get rid of me. But like everyone's replaceable and I don't want to live in fear, So I left as a widowed single mom and the sole financial provider of my family. I quit my comfy full-time job with benefits and was like, it's now or never. Because I figured if I failed, at least I tried. And I have no shame in working at McDonald's at all. Even though I went to Oxford and it doesn't matter. Like I'll provide for my family, but I at least wanted to give myself one last shot. And when you do, it's like do or die. So I figured that's it. So here I am.
I understand that you were actually a fan of the book Filmmaking for Dummies.
Oh, okay. So I got hired on my first set, right, as a PR person on 100 Acres of Hell, which is streaming now on Amazon and, Vudu and all those other platforms. And because of my, natural interest, I asked a lot of questions and the questions led to, somebody getting fired on the set. And they came to me and were like, would you be the production manager and run the entire set? And I'm like, you guys have been in this industry for like 25 years. Like it was Ernie O'Donnell who was in Clerks and stuff. And I'm like, you're the guy who taught me how to curse. And that I'm on a set for just a couple days. And he's like, the whole team was in Jason Kerner. All of them were great. And they're like, no, we believe in you. Gene Snitsky, And I'm like, all right. So I had an opportunity and I ordered filmmaking for dummies. And yeah, here we are. It's insane how like one opportunity could, I figured if I failed, I was like, well, at least I tried. And then I know the movie business isn't for me and I'll stick to PR.
Okay. It's a weird kind of movie. I was reading what it was about. It's a former pro wrestler goes to a resort and he brings his friends, but they're all being hunted by an inbred maniac.
I know, right? Like, there's just some things that I'm like, I guess, whatever. That's why I figured, this is the one to do. You don't want to wait to not, to do that with Matthew McConaughey in the room or anything. But so it was great. I mean, horror isn't, necessarily my favorite genre, but Eileen Dietz, she was in The Exorcist. She's also in 100 Acres of Hell. And she used to scare the crap out of me as a kid. And so I'm like, wow, this will be fun, And Gene was always great in WWE. Ernie taught me how to curse when we watched, in the basement at my friend's house because my parents obviously wouldn't let me because it was like rated R. So it was like, hey, why not? And I think that's what people need to do is just say yes and figure it out. But then if you don't know what you're doing, ask questions because I made it very clear from the start. But yet, sometimes people just believe in you and that's really cool because now we're here and thank God that made it.
And keep the book nearby too, right?
Oh, I have the revised version from November. I never stop learning, So it's like, it's even funny because my father said, nobody's going to come and knock on your door. So to film half of 100 Acres of Hell that's now on Amazon in my backyard and have all the stars there and have, all my friends that come to visit in the Poconos and stuff. It's pretty cool because it's like, I didn't mean to do that, but the fact that it all works out it's funny how the world works sometimes.
And your second project you co-produced was Operation Haiti?
Yes, and that was with Academy Award-winning producer Robert May. He did Kids for Cash and, a whole bunch of other ones with some huge people. And so it was a huge learning experience, and it was amazing. I've always wanted to go, and I guess that's why I went to news, because I wanted to always give a voice to people who wouldn't have otherwise have been heard. And I like helping people and telling their stories. And so this documentary, we got hired on, me and him and just a very small crew. There was just, a camera guy, a DP camera guy, assistant, and an audio person, me and Robert, and everybody, like the kids in the orphanage and people running it. And it debuted in Arizona. And 20 minutes after it debuted at the national conference, it like pulled in all this money. And within less than a year, they had 14 acres, new school, new house, running water, clean water, all these orphans. And being down there, it was like, everyone's scared. I've been to Haiti a few times. I really kind of like it because I like going, off the beaten path. I mean, I go on vacation to Auschwitz twice. So if that's any kind of, I just like to learn and people tell me there's no hope in these places. Well, I've found it in every single place I've been. But it was just so cool to see these kids who had nothing and had everything. So it was like, it was so inspiring to me. And it was insane to see Port-au-Prince and after the earthquake and whatnot. But I'm one of those people, smartly, of course, like, when things in Port-au-Prince got hairy and people start coming around and there's, hundreds of thousands of people. I got back on the bus with the security and had the kids and air conditioning, because, all right, I'm a little bit of a diva in a dangerous situation. I'm going to be smart, not stupid. But, my crew and everybody always looks out for each other and it's very respectful. But yeah, I still talk to the translator and the people and some of the kids, and I'm hoping to take my kids down there to see everything and to meet everyone when it's safe, of course, and maybe do an update. But they do a really, great job. And same thing, we're working with some people before all of this with the Queen's Charity in England and dealing with homelessness. And, I was met with Oxford because they were going to have some researchers and all of that. So, I really, really love, that's my passion, is just helping get other people's stories out there and helping other people. And, that's what we're kind of doing now. So it's great.
When you were telling me the story about the documentary, I find it kind of interesting because I guess you could probably relate to in a sense, what these children were going through with having nothing to getting their lives turned around and having an opportunity just as you did when you were younger.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is they speak French Creole down there and we had a translator, but me and some of these kids had never, like, we just spoke through a translator, but we didn't say very much. Like, I mean, it's not like it's disrespectful, but it's very hard to have a conversation when it's through another translator. And that translator was only, in his 20s, and he was an orphan as well and just worked there with them. And before I left, the one girl who was the lead girl on the doc, if you watch it, it's only like 10 minutes long, and you could search it up and it's on there. But she told the translator that because I believed in her, I was the only woman on the crew, so I was very like motherly. She said because I believed in her, she wanted to become the next president of Haiti and make it good. And I'm like, oh my God, like we didn't even say, and I still hear from them, and that was 4 years ago, and they're still have that mentality, and they're studying, and they, we could FaceTime because we got iPads and all that. So I still stay in touch mainly through the translator and through, the people running it because they were from the United States. It's so cool because you can't have an excuse when you didn't really say anything to them. It's all in your actions and just how you are as a person. And I think that's, that just speaks volumes for itself.
Could you tell me a little bit about working the Olympics?
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. I always want to try and push myself a little bit. So, the London Olympics happened in 2012 in the summer. My husband passed away in November of 2011. So I remember it was actually my oldest son, Gavin. He was still a kid. He was like 7 at the time, but I almost didn't go to the Olympics because I felt like I needed to stay home and be with the family. I didn't go for the full 6 weeks either. I was just, there for a short amount of time filling in just because it was an opportunity, but I was still there with the media. My son said, all my friends said they could have done that and they should have, or they would have done that. But I want to say that my mom did do that. So you should go. And I'm like, holy crap, kid. Like, where'd you learn that? Me? He's like, so I was just afraid because all the terrorists that, usually bomb stuff are from Oxford and Cambridge, and they didn't have to take a plane. They just had to walk down the street. I was on the Sailing Olympics down in Weymouth and Portsmouth. They lost all the master keys. I know when I got there, and I'm like, we're off to a great stop. Like I was just act cool and calm, but I was just afraid because, it's the biggest event in the world. So of course, that's prime target. But it ended up working out great. And as soon as I did it, I'm like, I did it, one and done. They've asked me back to other ones and I'm like, nope, I'm good. Like I don't need to push. It was a great time, but it's like one of those things. I just want to see if I could do it. If I enjoyed it, I would have kept going. But Russia and all of that, just I'm okay. I'll go on my own time. So,
what are some of your upcoming projects, Stacey?
Well, I'm currently working with. He's so amazing. His name is Clarence Spady. He's a Grammy Award winner or Grammy nominated artist, blues artist. They actually dubbed him the future of blues. He was an addict, heroin and everything for about 40 years, 35 years. His son died last year of an overdose, and he's been clean now since last year. But it's funny because he's played with everyone from B.B. King to Eric Clapton, opened for the Temptations, Supremes. This guy, it's unbelievable to me, the stuff that he was able to accomplish and, do it on drugs. But I'm like, okay, it's pot meet kettle. You know what I mean? So being able to help him, and inspire him by, telling his story and seeing, how it all plays out. Like right now we're doing it and it's just the most amazing feeling ever. He's in his late 50s and it's like, it's just so cool to see somebody get their life back and then be able to talk about all the stuff that they were able to do. And also we're helping him. He's going to be recording a new album and he's going to be working with some big name artists. And oh man, it just blows my mind. And like the interviews and stuff for some big names. But it's just, Snoop Dogg said, got to live to tell your own story. Don't let anybody else tell it for you. And, I told him that and so it's true. And we're having a great time, but that's what we're doing right now. But we have, we're focusing, like I said, on docs, but we do have some more film stuff coming up. I just have to hope that the COVID regulations don't completely kill everything just because I know there's a lot of regulations with union now and all of that. So, I mean, I always have, plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So there's always something in the chamber and multiple things happening at once. But I like to focus on, one thing at a time. It's just this time right now with this year is a little crazy. If we're going to do it and somebody tells me we can't do something, I'm a tenacious toy. Like, tell me, like, I don't say anything, but then when we do it, it's like, tell me what else we can't do,
Before I let you go, do you have any advice for people who want to maybe follow in your footsteps?
Sure. Don't listen to anybody. Okay. And if anybody who wants to say things, I would encourage you to be encouraging to a person, no matter how much they put you through, because just imagine the people who, told me I was going to fail and bet against me felt when they had to like my picture on the Grammys red carpet, since I go every year now. It's like the best revenge is success. And even people who come to me now and ask me for things like tickets or whatever, and they were, they had hurt me or tried to whatever in the past, I absolutely say yes, because you have to be the example. Like, I don't care if you were crappy to me, I'm going to be good to you. And 10 times out of 10, they've apologized. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I forgave you a long time ago. It's like forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. And, a lot of people don't listen to that and they think, of course it's hard. That's why I'm like the only person who, it's very rare that you find people who have gone through all of this stuff and then actually live to tell about it and have, get their life back and whatever, because a lot of people don't, or they'll just plateau, or, life's hard, man. God chooses people to suffer so they in turn can help others who suffer. And even if you don't believe in God, the principle is still the same. So it's like, it's proof, it's possible. I know your eyelashes hurt. I've been there. It's the worst thing in the world. But that was like 6 or 9 months of my life. And now it's been 17 years. So feel free to reach out to me or, any of that. And I'd be more than willing to talk to people. Don't be a bug or a burden, because I have things going on, but I promise I'll get back to people.
Her name is Stacey Toy, and she is a rock star herself. Stacey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jim. You're the best.
This podcast is part of the SJ Network. Go to s-j-network.com for more great podcasts and for contact information on publicist Steve Joyner.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Thanks a lot for spending some time in the Sherpa screening room. And I'm Jim, the podcast Sherpa, saying thanks so much to Stacey Toy, and thank you to all the women who were on the show for Amazing Women, Incredible Stories. And for the record, I know a lot of amazing women with incredible stories. They're just not always on my podcast. So I was very honored to have all these ladies on my show this week, and I hope that you've enjoyed it too. If you want to hear more of the show, you've got to find it first on your favorite podcast app. Or you can go to my website, Sherpalution.com, and you can hear all the episodes from the beginning right up to now. If you want to follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, use the word Sherpalution, and you can kind of get a little heads up on what's ahead in season 5. Now, I figured while I had this opportunity, I'd give you a little heads up on what's coming these next few weeks. Next week is going to be a themed week show also, and I'm calling it, What Are You, a Comedian? Because we will be talking to some very funny people. And I hope that you enjoy that as well. And the following week, we will do the season 4 wrap-up, but we will have a special bonus Halloween episode. I'm not going to give away too many details right now, but if you're not out at a Halloween party on Halloween, maybe you're just kind of hanging out at home with some little baby Snickers bars or Three Musketeers, maybe you can give these shows a listen. I think you're really going to enjoy them. A little spooky, not too spooky, but enjoyable, and really wonderful guests too. So we will see you next week for 3 days of What Are You, a Comedian week. And until then, hope you have a wonderful weekend. And viva la Sherpalution, Mr. Bruce. All these ladies here, whew, they've got me tired. Trying to keep the Sherpa Chalet so clean. If you would please, sir, grab the door and I will grab the feather duster. Have a good weekend, everybody. Viva la Sherpalution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpalu Studios production. Viva la Sherpalution!